So I'm going to start out with, the topic is using Redis for kiosk registration, command and control. I'm not doing anything with Redis. I don't have like master replication, nothing super cool. I think it's just a very practical use of how we're doing it. And I will preface this with saying it could all be done in MySQL or some other database, but from a load standpoint and kind of the cool factor, I think it's much more practical to do it in Redis. And I try to use Redis in everything I've done professionally here. So a little Smartwaiver background. The company was founded in April 2012. Actually, a college buddy of mine is the one who founded it. So far, we've done over 20 million digital waivers created and all stored on S3. We are headquartered in Bend, Oregon. We have customers all over the world, mostly US based though. Technically, the reason for that is because the database wasn't UTF-8 initially, so I fixed that recently. And no matter what, Saturdays are the busiest day of the week, period. And we're talking about like 3 or 4x other days of the week, every Saturday. Background on me, started all this technical stuff back in '93 with Autodesk, doing SAP stuff. So I've had basically been in the enterprise world till about 2010. Was with T-Leaf, which was bought by IBM eventually in 2000, 2010. And then tried to do another startup at MessageBus. So if anybody wants to talk about email, I can give you opinions on email delivery. And then Smartwaiver in December of 2015. It's a trail runner, ultra runner, and a climber. And if you're ever in Bend, the brewery I will always recommend you go to is Crux. Great beer, great location. And if you go to Bend, Oregon, you have to go to a brewery. Like you can't, or a coffee shop. I'm not a coffee drinker, so. So my Redis history was the first time I compiled a Redis server was in December of 2010. I think it was brand new Redis 2.0 stuff, and actually someone from Twitter told me about this NoSQL caching cool thing. You should take a look at it. So I've run every major version of Redis since then in a production environment. At MessageBus, it was the kind of the in-memory thing between the queue and the postfix server and the logging. So it hit, every email went through it, billions of emails. And currently we're using, the right term is Redis Enterprise, from Redis Labs 3.26. We host it at AWS within our own VPC, so we don't go outside the network. So basically everything is sitting in US East 1 on 3 servers. And as always, all the techies want to know what stack we're using. So we're all in on AWS. And just like everybody else, when S3 failed, we were down too. MySQL, Redis for caching. We use the simple queue service for all the queues. And for automated deployment, we use Ansible because it's free. And I like the push model versus the pull model. And the whole application is written in PHP. I inherited the application, but I'm a PHP hack myself, so people can have an opinion about what language you use, but I will really come down to, if the business makes money, it doesn't really matter what it's written in. And we make money, so. So to the real topic here is, to sign waivers, you can either do it online or via an app, which is a kiosk, and in 95% of our cases, it's an iPad. And we partner with MacLock, so in most cases, it's locked in a steel case so that no one can actually exit the app or steal the iPad. And as I said, you can do it online or in the iPad like that. So it presents the waiver. Some cases we have kind of an index page. You can choose which waiver you need to fill out. You fill it out, it submits it, and it's all good there. So the restriction we have right now is it has to be online. Our next version is going to be offline capable. and that's the whole summer project, and it's going to actually be, now with the new Redis master, there's all these ideas I have now with the stuff I've seen this week, so it's going to be really cool. So we have about 4,000 active kiosks at any one time in the environment. We don't know quite for sure because we have 2 versions of the app out there. Version 1 is really old, pre my time, and there's almost no way to really, other than parsing Apache logs to figure out what's coming in. So our goal was we had to update the app because actually we were outdated on all these security problems with the Apple Store kept telling us like this is out of date and this is out of date. And so we did version 2.0, and what we wanted to have in there was command and control because I wanted to make sure that the kiosks, we could send them commands because in the future I want to be able to have autofill and any other kind of functionality that I can just incorporate in there. So what the app is actually really doing is just embedding a web browser. So if we tell it to serve up a certain page, we can provide content and then in most cases some kind of JavaScript and we can control it from there. So from my email days, I really just wanted to create a botnet. So for 2.0, we wanted to have auto registration, meaning the version 1.0, to register the app or to start it up, you had to have the login information. And so if you had 20 kiosks, you had to sit there and log into all 20. And how did you unregister an app from us in version 1? Any ideas? You deleted it. There was no logout. Because you didn't want to have someone who was locked in, when it was locked in the case, the ability to log out. So it was very hackish. And then we had this whole side system of how you could make a temporary admin password to log in to test if you needed to someone's account, in the office kind of thing. Very hackish. So I was like, that has to go away because that's where all the support calls come in. And I wanted to have a framework for being able to do stuff at the waiver level, like pre-populate. Because with the new barcode scanners, I can scan someone's driver's license, it can pop up their information, and then you can walk over to the kiosk and have your name on it and say, are you Joe Smith? Yes. Most of your information is filled out, you sign it, you're done. So the waivers for us, the biggest, we're not the hardest part of a process of someone getting into something, but we're perceived as a bottleneck. And so the faster you can make a waiver to be signed, the less hassle, the better. So, as all good techie companies, we had Hack Day. And so since I had a new developer, he'd never, straight out of college, might as well introduce him to the Hack Day. So that's an actual photo of the whiteboard at the end of the day there. So I had a pretty good idea that I wanted to use Redis already, and I had a good idea of what scenario I wanted to do this with. And so really the whole day came into just pushing all the little ideas together. So we had to do back-end stuff, we had to do some front-end stuff, and to make it work. So it was actually turned out to be almost exactly, plus a few extra things, what we designed on the whiteboard there. And I hope this decision is the right one, but the decision had to be made of, do you enter the registration code on the kiosk, or does the kind of controller, the person who's on the website in the admin screen, enter the number? And so I felt the decision I made was, I felt like the kiosk should be no input registration. It just makes it a lot easier. Because then you can have someone on the phone in a remote location just saying, and the person who's the admin, who's logged in properly, say, just read me the numbers. They can enter the numbers and then the thing's registered. So the operator on the kiosk side doesn't have to do anything other than hit something on the screen. So it could have gone either way. You could do it where the admin generates the number and the kiosk enters it, but we decided to do it the other way because I just wanted almost no way to fail on the kiosk side. So when the kiosk starts up, it sends a signal to the API. There's specific routes for all the kiosk stuff, and this one's open. It registers itself. And since it has a device ID and it generates its own key code, that sits in Redis. And then the kiosk manager on the admin side can enter the device and then it links it in the database. So Could you do this all in a database? Yes. Is the information permanently stored in the database? Yes. But that registration code key expires in 5 minutes. And if you do it in the database with all that stuff, you have to have all these cleanup jobs coming through and saying, look, is it an expired code? Is it this or that? In Redis, it's like you set the key, it expires in 5 minutes, and if it's not there in time, if you don't link it in time, no one's the wiser. Everything just gets cleaned up, fine. So when I inherited the system a year and a half ago, there was like 70 plus cron jobs to do all this little cleanup stuff everywhere. And I've slowly whittled that down, and I was not about to add more cron jobs to this process. So give you background on that one. This is not my super great schematic of what happens, but basically the kiosk does the API call. It sets this key just like that. And then the kiosk manager, when you enter it, you match the key, you get the device ID, then you can link it all up right there. And with the device ID, we also get like OS version and all this other stuff, which is helpful because then when someone calls up and says it's not working, we know exactly, and in most cases of the, so this has been installed almost 3,000 times now, the new version. About 10 of them, we've had to say, just rebuild the iPad, like default settings, because they have some other thing on there that's conflicting, and we don't know what it is, but it's a kiosk. It's supposed to be dedicated. If you have other apps running on there, you are not kind of following the rules. So I have no problem telling someone default settings, factory reload, and good to go. So basically, this is the screen that the kiosk shows. I have a Smartwaiver account, generates a number, and then we have a nice little, my developer had a nice time with a little round, like HTML5 circle that decrements itself down at the bottom. That was his little extra hack day project there. Enter the code. This is the screen on the admin side. I enter it, the code there, type in the name, hit register, and that's when it does the lookup on the Redis side, and it says it finds it, and then it goes and makes the link in the database table to say, this device ID belongs to this account. Now you're hard linked, and the active flag is set. So when someone, now you can deregister, so now we have essentially the logout button. On the admin side, you can deregister a device, and then it's unlinked from your account, and it can be freely linked back to another account. So on the kiosk side, actually, you can do nothing other than delete the app if you want to do so. So the second thing was I wanted to lay the framework, since we're deploying this version 2 out there, and I know people, I was actually surprised at how quickly people actually installed the new app after such a long time of the version 1 out there. So that was a good thing, which means that most people are paying attention to the little badge saying you have an update, and that we can release new functionality, I think, at a more frequent pace and actually have response to it. But we still included this. It's kind of the feature's turned on by customer, and we have a way to do that on the API side. So what we wanted to do is basically build a little botnet. So all my kiosks sitting there asking for, do I have something to do? Do I have something to do? And they're all phoning home constantly, not kind of a degraded pace, like 10 seconds and then 15 seconds, and no more than I think a minute long before they poll what to do. And so in their little hash key that they have, that's their device ID, we will, if there's a command, it's got their device ID and a command, what to do, and typically a payload of what they're supposed to do with that. And we use a JSON payload. I don't think there's any reason to use re-JSON for that in the future, but anyway, ever since I saw that module, I'm like, okay, is there a practical use that I have for it? And I haven't found it yet. The multi-master for sure, and search. So the first command we did was to pre-populate the waiver with the participant information. As I explained earlier, it just makes life a lot easier and faster for people. And we've turned this on in beta mode. And the key part to this is, it's kind of how it's a high-level version of how our AWS looks. All the kiosks are hitting the load balancer, the API servers, and then the API server, if it has the proper route, it checks Redis for, do I have a command sitting there or not? If it's a miss, then, it's a no op, go back to sleep and wait a while. So that's all cool, and in testing it in the hack day, we just, did a hash set, 2 commands, and the kiosk would pull it up. But then the practicality came to how do you actually do this in the real world? And we do have another Chrome extension for moving data from the waiver to a CRM page, such as MindBody, because MindBody doesn't have a true API, or they make you pay so much it's not a true API. So we wanted to have the kind of the reverse thing. So we made a quick Chrome extension, which will be released in June, so that you can autofill the stuff. So it knows from this one you have to actually log into. It knows all your types of waivers that you have. You can pick one. It knows which fields are there. You can autofill it. Then it knows which iPads or which kiosks are online. You can pick one that's online, and then you can send it to that kiosk, and the information's waiting there for them. And it'll pop up with a little thing. So as a total aside, that console there, this time next year, will be totally driven by Redis search. And right now it's just a straight database table in Aurora. And we have fixed search fields. So after seeing Redis search, that's gonna be the way we're gonna solve all this. So you imagine any field on the waiver per customer, and each customer has a different set of waivers, can have different search fields. So if they want to find out the comment field, did they type in RedisConf? It's searchable just like that. So that was, if I got anything from this conference, that's the one thing that's going to be a game changer for me anyway. So we have, like I said earlier, 4,000 active kiosks, and then that was a Chrome extension. And so I've used Redis in basically, I always try to find a use for it. It's like my Swiss Army knife. And yes, you can do, like I said, you can do all this stuff in a database or other possible ways, but I almost always find that Redis is the fastest and kind of the easiest way to do things, especially if you have 2 different languages or 2 different entities who have to kind of, we've all heard about shared memory, like at the C level, or if you think of Redis as kind of like shared memory across any kind of platforms, the world becomes super easy to do stuff. And then, programs can change and share stuff, and you don't have to worry about state and all that stuff. So it's really, I find it easiest. And I use it actually in my personal projects too. I do this runner tracking thing. And it's my cache layer. It works great. So I don't have to spend tons of money on spinning up a lot of servers, and it just works great. And that's my contact information. So if you are ever in Bend, so we did this recently, that's the team. It's called CyclePub. It's the funnest way to explore Bend. And of course they're a customer too, but these guys, they get you on a bike, and whether you drink or not, you can have whatever beverage you want, because it's legal to drink on the bike. You can't drink off the bike. I don't know why. City rules. And you all pedal. And then you get a tour around the entire, and the guy, John, knows all the history of the whole town and stuff.